Adelaide paid great tribute to one of their warriors in Showdown 55. Their tough win over arch rivals Port has them back in the mix for finals when early on it looked like they might struggle to capture form. No doubt the sudden retirement of Sloane was an inspirational element for the night. He seemed to be working his way back from retina issues, but obviously the risk had become too great. It's another marquee AFL player that has suddenly retired. At least he got a warm send-off and will be an integral part of the club's future, just not on the field. Going through history, a number of other star players have had shock retirements, immediately ending their careers. Two other high-profile ones in 2024 include Angus Brayshaw and Nathan Murphy. Both were premiership players with critical roles in their teams, but due to unfortunate incidents on the field, had to stop for their own health. Hopefully the concussion crisis can stop ruining careers like these too early. Two iconic players during the mid-2000s and early 2010s were forced into shock retirements due to injury, not with concussion, but trauma to their lower bodies. Chris Judd trained like no other player in his early years. Those repeat effort 400 metres translated straight away at the Eagles and made him a star. In hindsight, that type of manic training caught up with Judd in the end. His huge trade to Carlton didn't lead to the team success he would have wanted, but early on he was still a massive draw card for the Blues. He was a 4-time All-Australian and Brownlow winner at Carlton, but coming into 2015 he still had more to give. He may have lost that ultimate breakaway speed, but the polish and football IQ was as high as ever. His 2014 was cut to just 12 games and included frustrations with hamstring and Achilles issues. The next season, entering at just 31, was a chance at a little redemption. Not that he had to prove himself anymore, but could he help the 7-win Blues improve in 2015? Well, in the 7 games he played in the first 9 rounds, Carlton lost each one. It was round 10 at the MCG against Adelaide. It would all come to an end.
Tested out as Cripps goes wide out to Judd. Have they just got the running capacity to go with this super?
He's hurt himself.
Knee or ankle, he's gone down, he's got his knee.
As soon as he landed, he hurt something badly.
It's his left knee, boys. He's in real trouble here.
Yeah.
The superstar of the competition for the last decade and a bit, Chris Judd.
In front of 32,000 people at the MCG, Judd was carted away. It was clear from his instant reaction and him waving, he knew his career was over. His form was improving during the previous few weeks and it looked like he would play out the season. But he officially announced his retirement just days after the knee injury, and in retrospect was a sad end to a legend's career. Just a year later, one of his counterparts in Dane Swan had his career ended. His 2015 saw him return to his best after an injury-plagued 2014. He averaged 29 disposals and a goal per game, polling 13 Brownlow votes, being a shining light in a poor season at the Pies. In 2016, he looked to carry on good form in his twilight years, but his first involvement coming off the bench at the SCG in round 1 was devastating.
Come back and try to spoil it and just fell on me and my leg just buckled underneath me.
Swan came on and Dane Swan got smashed in his first contest. He's in trouble, Dane Swan's. Bad news for the Pies.
When I went down, I heard a pop. So I was like, that doesn't sound right. The doc ran over and said, get up. And I think I told him, mate, just relax. I think I'm hurt a little bit. So.
Some medical experts describe the injury as a car crash. Broken bones in his foot and leg compiled by the dreaded Liz Frank injury. He was ruled out for the year, but did do rehab. However, in August that season, he hung up the boots, even though a large part of him wanted to play on. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I thought it was probably time, he said. I just couldn't trust my foot to go around anymore. I was trying to fight the decision in my head. I've probably known for a while that I didn't think I could play, but going down and watching the boys I'd like to get back out there. A pair of star retirements in the early 90s ended up finishing as success stories. The first was Essendon Team of the Century on baller Tim Watson. His 20 touches and a goal per game for a career shows his quality year in and year out, but in 1991, injury struggles limited his impact. The then 30-year-old played just 17 games in a season where Essendon finished 6th on the ladder. Perhaps he was burnt out or just wanted a new opportunity because the Seven Network called. For the 1992 season, he was a part of their football coverage. He worked in commentary and also as a boundary rider. However, in the 1992 pre-season draft, despite his retirement call, the West Coast Eagles still picked him up. He never played, but guess who won the 1992 premiership? West Coast did, and it happened that Tim Watson was the boundary rider on grand final day. He would return back to Essendon in 1993, playing an important forward midfield role, leading the Baby Bombers side to one of their most famous premierships.
Thursday morning, the football world awoke to the most sensational news since Collingwood won last year's AFL Grand Final. The freak Gary Ablett decided to give away Australian rules, and with that, left the Bayside city of Geelong with just another setback, following on from the pyramid scandal and the recent...
The biggest name in the game quit at 29. Like Watson, Ablett Sr.'s 1990 was injury interrupted, although he still chipped in with a handy 75 goals for the season. But a loss of enjoyment and personal reasons led to him deciding to step back, but not for long. It was a major news story at the time that round 12 would be Ablett's return, not in the AFL, but VFL. He got through the game and came back to the senior side kicking 28 goals in his 12 appearances, playing all the way until their elimination final win against St Kilda. He wouldn't go on to be a part of a premiership team, but the best of Ablett was ahead of the 1991 return season. The next 3 years saw him kick over 120 goals in each campaign, dominating well into his 30s. It never would have happened if Geelong didn't persuade him to come back in the middle of 1991. A couple other retirements came when players were at their peak. How about Cameron Ling in 2011? The two-way midfielder was premiership captain, adding to his previous couple of premiership medallions, and his All-Australian selection in 2007 and best and fairest win. He was just 30 after the triumph and seemed destined to be captain for a few more years, but suddenly he stepped down and retired. It was a massive shock after his stellar performance in Dane Swan in the 2011 Grand Final, but Ling saw more opportunity outside playing in the AFL. Since he retired, he's been at Channel 7 regularly as a boundary rider and special commentator. The same season saw Leon Davis leave. Most of his career saw him play as a creative small forward, but his 2011 season was in defence. As a rebounding halfback, he averaged a career-high 22 disposals per game and was named in the All-Australian team. Like Ling, he was only 30 years old, but a range of factors caused him to hang up the boots. Firstly, Collingwood offered him a large discount on his next deal, despite the success of his positional move. He also missed his family back in Perth and had a history of contemplating moving back to WA. In the end, he left the Pies and played a couple more years in the Waffle for the Perth Demons.